Please do not believe a thing I say or type. Do not believe me. Check what I am say and stop being sheep. This is a real weapon of surveillance and torture and is being used right now in the city of India by army military. This weapon of mass destruction is designed to make it look as though you're crazy. The target will eventually die of cancer, Alzheimer's disease, pretty much natural causes because of infrasound, ultrasound, microwave radiation, electromagnetic radiation, oscillation. Now this one is no joke. GPS signals consist of microwave radiation, electromagnetic radiation, radio frequencies, oscillation, excited atoms, hydrogen maser, and more. One of the fascinating things about a GPS signal is what it can do. First, a GPS signal can set boundaries of how far the radius of its signal can go. The blue circle, spoofed GPS, is a signal made with alterations for communication surveillance and in the wrong hands torture. A spoofed GPS signal can bypass a satellite and be sent from transceiver and phase-locked looped with a rubidium atomic clock generator and a frequency comb generator. To do that, it needs a rubidium atomic clock for the person to have control over this signal. A frequency comb generator is also added to the mix for video surveillance. A normal GPS signal does not behave the same as a spoofed GPS signal does. Spoofed GPS signal is more intense than normal. It can be locked onto its target 24/7 and it will eventually kill you. It provides audio and video surveillance, can produce superposition beat frequency, and microwave auditory effect hearing, which creates what the American diplomats heard, chirping, cricket. Someone needs to fire that reporter. Really, crickets, and many more weapons. GPS is easy to hack, and the US has no backup. A sonic helper attack is made from a spoofed GPS signaler. https://www.scientificamerican.com/article/GPS-is-easy-to-has-no-backup/. With 3 generators they can make their victims think they hear voices. They can burn us without leaving much of a mark, look into anyone's home with no camera and listen to every word you say with no speakers or microphones. These 3 generators: GPS, rubidium atomic clock, and frequency comb generator. GPS generator, Simulatora makes spoofed GPS L1 1575.42 MHz and L2 1227.60 MHz. These are microwaves and they are equal to 1.575 and 1.227 GHz. GHz are the carrier waves which can carry radio frequencies. What are radio frequency and microwave radiation, you might ask? Electromagnetic radiation consists of waves of electric and magnetic energy moving together, i.e., radiating through space at the speed of light. Taken together, all forms of electromagnetic energy are referred to as the electromagnetic spectrum. Radio waves and microwaves emitted by transmitting antennas are one form of electromagnetic energy. They are collectively referred to as radio frequency, or RF energy or radiation. Note that the term RF radiation does not mean RF radioactive. Often, the terms electromagnetic field or radio frequency field are used to indicate the presence of electromagnetic or RF energy. The RF waves emanating from an antenna are generated by the movement of electrical charges in the antenna. Electromagnetic waves can be characterized by a wavelength and a frequency. The wavelength is the distance covered by one complete cycle of the electromagnetic wave, while the frequency is the number of electromagnetic waves passing a given point in 1 second. The frequency of an RF signal is usually expressed in terms of a unit called the hertz, abbreviated Hz. 1 Hz equals 1 cycle per second. 1 megahertz equals 1 million cycles per second. Different forms of electromagnetic energy are categorized by their wavelengths and frequencies. The RF part of the electromagnetic spectrum is generally defined as that part of the spectrum where electromagnetic waves have frequencies in the range of about 3 kHz to 300 GHz. Keep in mind that a GPS signal is L1 1575.42 MHz is equal to 1.575 GHz. 1.575 GHz equals 1.575 GHz. Microwaves are a specific category of radio waves that can be loosely defined as radio frequency energy at frequencies ranging from about 1 GHz to 30 GHz. Please do not forget for one moment this is loop doomed around the target's home. We are living in this shit and we are getting weaker every day. How is radio frequency energy used? The most important use for RF energy is in providing telecommunications services, radio and television broadcasting, cellular telephones, personal communications services (PCS), pagers, cordless telephones, business radio, radio communications for police and fire departments, amateur radio, microwave point-to-point links and satellite communications are just a few of the many telecommunications applications of RF energy. Microwave ovens are an example of a non-telecommunication use of RF energy. Radio frequency radiation, especially at microwave frequencies, can transfer energy to water molecules. High levels of microwave energy will generate heat in water-rich materials such as most foods. This efficient absorption of microwave energy via water molecules results in rapid heating throughout an object, thus allowing food to be cooked more quickly in a microwave oven than in a conventional oven. Other important non-telecommunication uses of RF energy include radar and industrial heating and sealing. Radar is a valuable tool used in many applications range from traffic speed enforcement to air traffic control and military surveillance. Industrial heaters and sealers generate intense levels of RF radiation that rapidly heats the material being processed in the same way that a microwave oven cooks food. These devices have many uses in industry, including molding plastic materials, gluing wood products, sealing items such as shoes and pocketbooks, and processing food products. There are also a number of medical applications of RF energy, such as diathermy and magnetic resonance imaging (MRI). Back to index. A carrier wave can be modulated to prevent interference from a number of transmitting stations, and to travel further. All broadcaster radio waves are first modulated. Modulation is the process by which a sounder wave is added to a basic radio wave known as the carrier wave. Sounder waves can also be modulated in such a way that the frequency is altered in various ways. Radio stations use modulated carrier waves. The radio signals are AM, amplitude modulated, or FM, frequency modulated. When your radio is tuned to 105 FM, you are not actually listening to 105 MHz, despite the announcer's assurances. It is well above the range of human hearing. 105 MHz is just the frequency of the carrier wave that is being modulated. It is those modulations that occur that make the speech and music intelligible. They come to you at a much slower frequency than does the carrier wave. The GPS carriers L1, L2, and L5 could have been modulated in a variety of ways to carry the binary codes, the zeros and ones, that are the C, A and P, Y codes. Neither amplitude nor frequency modulation are used in GPS. It is the alteration of the phases of the carrier waves that encodes them. It is phase modulation that allows them to carry the codes from the satellites to the receivers. One consequence of this method of modulation is that the signal can occupy a broader bandwidth than would otherwise be possible. The GPS signal is said to have a spread spectrum because of its intentionally increased bandwidth. In other words, the overall bandwidth of the GPS signal is much wider than the bandwidth of the information it is carrying. In other words, while L1 is centered on 1575.42 MHz, L2 is centered on 1227.60 MHz, and L5 on 1176.45 MHz, but the width of these signals takes up a good deal more space on each side of these frequencies than might be expected. For example, the CA code signal is spread over a width of 2.046 MHz or so, the PY code signal is spread over a width about 20.46 MHz on L1, and the coming L1C signal will be spread over 4.092 MHz as shown in the image above. In my past posts I have told everyone about how a GPS signal can carry and modulate a television frequency which it can also be put on a phase loop lock around anyone's home with audio and video radio frequency which can be modulated just like a radio or TV signal, but this ISO audio and video from your home. People haven't being trained how to do this in the military, and once they get out they use it for their own personal uses. Don't believe me and check my work. Enjoy the rabbit hole. This characteristic offers several advantages. It affords better signal-to-noise ratio, more accurate ranging, less interference, and increased security. However, spreading the spectral density of the signal also reduces its power, so that the GPS signal is sometimes described as a 25-watt light bulb seen from 10,000 miles away. Clearly, the weakness of the signal makes it somewhat difficult to receive under cover of foliage. In any case, the most commonly used spread spectrum modulation technique is known as binary phase shift keying, BPSK. This is the technique used to create the nav message, the PY code and the CA code. The binary biphase modulation is a switching from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 0 accomplished by phase changes of 180 R in the carrier wave. Put another way, at the moments when the value of the code must change from 0 to 1, or from 1 to 0, the change is accomplished by an instantaneous reverse of the phase of the carrier wave. It is flipped 180 R. And each one of these flips occurs when the phase of the carrier is at the zero crossing. Each 0 and 1 of the binary code is known as our code chip. 0 represents the normal state, and 1 represents the mirror image state. This weapon of mass destruction is designed to make it look as though you're crazy. The target will eventually die of cancer, Alzheimer's disease, pretty much natural causes because of infrasound, ultrasound, microwave radiation, electromagnetic radiation, oscillation. Now this one is no joke. GPS signals consist of microwave radiation, electromagnetic radiation, radio frequencies, oscillation, excited atoms, hydrogen maser, and more. One of the fascinating things about a GPS signal is what it can do. First, a GPS signal can set boundaries of how far the radius of its signal can go. The blue circle, spoofed GPS, is a signal made with alterations for communication surveillance and in the wrong hands torture. A spoofed GPS signal can bypass the satellite and be sent from transceiver and phase-locked looped with a rubidium atomic clock generator and a frequency comb generator. To do that, it needs a rubidium atomic clock for the person to have control over this signal. A frequency comb generator ISO also added to the mix for video surveillance. A normal GPS signal does not behave the same as a spoofed GPS signal does. Spoofed GPS signal is more intense than normal. It can be locked onto its target 24/7 and it will eventually kill you. It provides audio and video surveillance, can produce superposition beat frequency, and microwave auditory effect hearing, which creates the American diplomats chirping cricket, someone needs to fire that reporter, and many more weapons.